Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Buenos días, damas y caballeros. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to SkyTalks. This is our 40th assembly, and we have, over the next 2 weeks, 68 presentations for you. We've already had some great presentations yesterday, and please go on to YouTube and check out the ICAO channel. We continue today. This is day 2, session number 2, and we continue our discussion on big data analytics. We're going to talk about the digital portal and how it helps day-to-day operations. The title of the next presentation is Data Network for Aviation and Foreign Operator Application Tool. The presenter today would be David Scorer, Technical Officer at Operation Safety Section in the Air Navigation Bureau here at ICAO. Without further ado, David Scorer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Yes, my name is David Scorer. I'm a Technical Officer in the Operational Safety Section here in A&B at ICAO. And I'm going to talk to you on what we call the Data Network for Aviation, the DNA, and the Foreign Operator Application Tool. And it's going to become apparent to you very soon just exactly what these two things are. So I'll start with an overview of what my SkyTalk is going to be about today. I will start by telling you just exactly what the DNA is, and I'll tell you why we're doing that at ICAO, what this means to the global aviation community as well. That's pretty key here. And then I'm going to demonstrate the DNA itself and the current services. We've developed a prototype in-house, and you're going to be able to see that. And it'll become clear what I mean by actual services, the services that we offer through this DNA portal. One of those services is the Foreign Operator Applications Tool, so I'll introduce you to that. And then I'll talk to you about the benefits of the FOAT for operators and states, our primary stakeholders here at ICAO. We have also developed a prototype of the FOAT in-house, so I'm going to give you a demonstration of that, and then I'll wrap up with what next, these steps, and how you can get involved as the aviation community. So, first and foremost, what is the Data Network for Aviation, or the DNA? Well, essentially, it is a suite of online services that help the aviation community in their day-to-day operations. So, as I said, we're targeting civil aviation authorities and operators as our primary stakeholders in ops, but it extends to air navigation service providers and then other organizations as we identify them, as we identify services that might be beneficial to you all. It's important to note that the DNA is not a service in itself, but rather it's the portal or the gateway to access these services. So you can think of it like the App Store or like a mall, where you enter the mall and you can go into the different stores. So why are we doing this at ICAO and in ops specifically? Well, it's a new philosophy somewhat. Of course, you'll know that in ops we're responsible for standards, recommended practices, for some key annexes, operation of aircraft and airworthiness in particular, two big ones. But within ops we manage a number of electronic databases and tools. You might be familiar with the 3LD and the 4-letter designator as well. And as these tools and services start to increase, we want to try and develop them with kind of 3 aims in mind, as you can see there. First, we want to help states and operators with their day-to-day business where we can. And as there are more and more of these tools that are developed, we really want to improve on the information and data management, because we think that will have a subsequent impact on safety for accuracy of that data stored and how it's communicated, maybe from one platform to another. And then 3, of course, where applicable, we can assist stakeholders in meeting any ICAO obligations that they may have. So that's why we're doing that in ops. A key element of that is that because of these multiple services that are being developed, we've identified some challenges that arise. And that's quite often in terms of data management, data entry and then subsequent data management. When there are multiple different services that often require the same data, the same information, you have to input it as a stakeholder in different locations and sometimes in different formats. And that can of course lead to a work effort, resource and cost implications for the stakeholder in managing all that data. So that's really the driving force behind the DNA as a whole and the concept. And now I'll show you how the DNA helps that data management in theory. So information that's entered and managed by a user, by a stakeholder for one specific service can then be made available when they require it for another service accessed through the DNA. So it's important to note that this would always be at the discretion of the data owner themselves. There's no danger of their data being used somewhere where they don't want it to be used. That's a really key point. But the whole concept eliminates this duplication of effort that stakeholders face when they're required to enter often common data fields in multiple different locations. You can see this from the graphic on the screen, really, some simple, small database graphics at the bottom and that might contain specific elements of data, and those elements can be used in different digital services as and when required. So why tell you about this now? Well, the DNA as an interface is live. There is the web address. You can go to that web address right now and you will see a DNA portal, which I will show you shortly. We are in the early stages. We have one service launched, which I will also talk more about shortly. We're looking to increase community awareness about the DNA and then subsequent adoption of the services. We'd like to promote some of the upcoming services that we have currently in development, of which there are a number. And really importantly, we need to gather feedback from the community and engage with the community on the services that we're building to make sure that the functionality and the features are going to provide actual genuine benefit to our stakeholders. And then on any other services that we might be able to develop that we've not seen the opportunity for yet. So that's why we're telling you about it right now. Before I show you the portal, rather this is the portal, we'll jump straight in. I'm not going to step outside of the PowerPoint because that kind of thing is fraught with danger in these sorts of presentations. So these are screenshots, but as I said, you can go directly to the website right now. And this is what you will see. It's a simple landing page which tells you what the DNA actually is, and you can have log in, click the button to log in. Now, of course, at this stage, you won't have login credentials. So if you come to this login page, you will see down the bottom that there's a sign up link, and you can click that to sign up. This is what you'll see, and it's standard functionality for you to register to create an account with your email address, password. Once you're through that stage, you can enter the DNA, and this is what you will see when you enter the DNA portal. Again, a little bit of information about what the DNA is and what it's trying to achieve. And then you will see a list of what we call applications and services, these services that we hope provide benefits to the aviation community. The first one there is the Ops Control Directory. This is targeted primarily at air navigation service providers and at operators. You need to use a little bit of imagination here. There's one service live right now, but please, if you can think that there'll be a long list of these services, and you can enter each one of them as you require using the blue buttons there. I'm not going to go into the Ops Control Directory. A colleague of mine will in a further SkyTalk planned later today. So that's the first service that we've developed in Ops, the Ops Control Directory. Hot on the heels of that will be the location of the aircraft in distress repository, known as the ladder. This is in the scoping phase, and that really goes hand in hand with the Ops Control Directory as it addresses global aircraft in distress tracking requirements that are going into Annex 6 in the coming year. So please see the SkyTalk on those subjects if you're more interested in those services. Also on the planned list of services, we have the Aircraft Registration Network, or the ARN. Now that's in the development phase. We've made a lot of progress with that. There will be another SkyTalk delivered by myself on that subject, so I won't go into that right now. IATA Services, of course, IATA are just over the road. We're in ongoing discussions with them to see what kind of services we can develop that helps them with their stakeholders. They're obviously the same stakeholders that we represent, and it would make sense if the tools and services that we develop meet their needs as well. It would benefit everybody in the community if we do this hand in hand. And then at the end there, the Foreign Operator Application Tool, the FOAT, which is in the development phase, and that is what I'm going to talk to you in more detail about now. So a quick overview of what I'm going to talk about with respect to the FOAT. I'm going to tell you what the driving factors are behind it and then what the FOAT is exactly, although I'm hopeful that the name is fairly self-explanatory. I'll tell you about the benefits for the air operators first of all, and then for the state aviation authorities. Of course, the benefits are key, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. And then I'm going to demonstrate the FOAT prototype itself that we've developed in-house already. So, first of all, what is the driving factor behind the FOAT? Well, as I'm sure you're aware, Annex 6 requires that states maintain oversight of any foreign air operators that are flying to their shores. And in this respect, there's ICAO guidance that already exists in the form of document 8335, which is the Manual of Procedures for Operations Inspection, Certification and Continued Surveillance, a little bit of a mouthful. Within that document, however, you will find attachment B, which is an approval process and continuing surveillance. That's in graphical form, a flowchart. And attachment C, which presents a foreign operations applications form, which is a template or format that any state can use and adapt to require of operators when they apply to their state. So that exists, and that's all well and good. However, what we found is that states take very diverging approaches to what they require of operators when they make these foreign operator applications. And in fact, there's a working paper in the Technical Commission this week, submitted by a state, that highlights this exact problem. And there are also, this also presents considerable follow-on complications for the operators themselves when there's not one consistent process or place to go. They have to go to different websites to fill in different forms depending on what country they're trying to apply to. So that's the driving factor in some of the problems we've identified. So what is the FOAT exactly? Well, essentially it's an online system that facilitates the process of making a foreign operator application to a state civil aviation authority. Now, what we've recognized and what you might be aware of is that currently the process for many states is paper-based. If I'm an operator and I want to make an application, I have to go to their CAA website, I have to find the forms, it's often in PDF format, I have to print it out, maybe fill it in by hand, scan it, email it. Of course, this comes with inefficiencies in processing and data management. So that's one of the main problems we're trying to address with the FOAT. We are in the scoping and prototype phase, so it is really key to note that we are seeking community feedback on this project. We have built and developed a prototype that is currently based on the document 8335 criteria and on state-specific requirements. But please also keep in mind that what you'll see with the prototype is just the early stage, and we hope to develop it much further so it becomes much more advanced and really addresses the root of the problems that we face. With that in mind, just to give you an idea of who we're working with, of course we're developing it in-house at ICAO, but we're also working with the EASA. EASA have the third country operator, or TCO, application process. If you're an operator applying to an EU member state, that is a critical element of that process. So it's important that we look to incorporate that feature into the FOAT so that an operator can follow the end-to-end process within the FOAT. So we're working with them, and they're being very helpful in advising us what we need to do there. And I've mentioned IATA already. Of course, they represent the operators, so it's key we engage with them to make sure that what we build meets the needs of the operators as well. So it's not just ICAO on its own looking at this. We really want to engage with the community to make sure we build what you need. So before I show you what it looks like, I'm just going to touch on the benefits, starting with the benefits of the operators, for the operators. So it's a web-based system that delivers these applications to state CAAs. And so what that gives the operators is a one-stop shop, a portal they can go to see what they need to do, what they need to submit when they select a state to which they want to fly to. And we're looking to bring some consistency to those requirements for each state as well. There's a secure platform to manage the data for each application, so of course that needs to be stored somewhere. We're talking about AOC, Air Operator Certificate data, and operational specification data as well. That's the kind of data that's needed for each and every application. So the FOAT will provide a platform for an operator to store and manage it, keep it up to date. And that's critical because of the third bullet you'll see there, this auto-population of core data fields. This is one of the key elements we're trying to address with the FOAT and the DNA as a whole, this duplication of effort. So now as an operator, rather than having to complete a new application to a new state right from the beginning, starting again with who I am and where I come from, because we have auto-population of the data fields, these fields are completed on my behalf, so saving time and effort. Going further, there's functionality that we can introduce, such as multi-state communications. If I have a change to any of my operator information, change of address, change of executives, that sort of thing, then I can use a one-click functionality to inform all of the states to which I have a foreign operator permit instantaneously. So moving on now to the benefits for the state aviation authorities. Well, first, there is the potential to present aggregated ICAO data that a state should really take into account when considering a foreign operator application. So we're talking things like universal safety, oversight, audit program, effective implementation rates of the state of the operator, or any bilateral agreements that might exist between state to state. Because this is an ICAO developed tool, we can connect to existing ICAO platforms to present that data front and center for the benefit of the state. I mentioned communication of changes to operator data from the operator perspective. Of course, that's a benefit from the state perspective because they would benefit from much more timely information coming from the operators to which they've already granted foreign operator approvals. We can facilitate state-to-state communication for any validation. So here we're talking about when a state might require validation from the state of the operator that's applied to them, so they can reach out to that state directly within the functionality that we might develop. Going even further now in the long run, there's potential for a brand new digital interface for states so that states can manage all incoming applications within the FOAT system. And that would do away with their current paper-based process if that's what they currently have. And if they don't, if the state is advanced enough at this stage to have an electronic system already, then there's always the potential for us to integrate that within the FOAT as a whole so that everybody can still benefit from the same features and functionality that we're looking to develop. So I'm now going to demo, again, using some screenshots rather than going into the platform. This is not live, this is in development. If you would like to see this in more detail, please come and see us after or get in touch. You won't be able to access this right now. This simply represents the current landing page, the home page, before you log in, so you don't need to read it. It's just an indication of where we are with the platform. You can see it would present all the core benefits of what this platform is going to give to states and operators. I'm now going to step through a sequence of the core elements of the platform from an operator perspective. Now, first of all, I need to manage my core operator information. So I log into the FOAT. Now, you can't see this right now. I'm going to zoom in shortly. But what I'll be presented with, first of all, is where to store my information. This is in line with 8335, as I said earlier. All my core information that will be required for every application. So you can see I can input the name of my company, my airline, the address, telephone number, email address. All of this can go into my profile effectively within my FOAT portal. And that's stored and can be stored for use in my application, so keep those fields in mind. You will see there at the top of the screen the menu, so I can go towards my applications or a new application, and I'm going to go through a new application now. So it's important that I mention this disclaimer. This is for demonstration purposes only. We have selected 2 states at random, and we've used their publicly accessible foreign operator application forms. So you can find those forms on their state CAA websites right now. So if I'd gone to the top of the screen, the menu, and I'd select a new application, I'm then going to be able to choose a state, and I will be presented with the type of information that state requires. I'm going to zoom in shortly, you can't see it, but this is the information required for this particular state. So there's my drop-down box. I can select my states, and I've selected Canada. And what I'm then presented with is all of the unique instructions that are required for my application to Canada, documentation requirements, the contact information, all that sort of thing. So I continue knowing exactly what I need to do. Now I start to enter my data that's requested of the state, and you will see right away the potential benefits of an electronic platform like this, because my core information associated with my profile is pre-populated in the fields. I don't need to go about entering them again. Now hopefully you can see where this is going, because now if I apply to a new state, a different country, I want to fly to a new country that I've not flown to before, I can make an application to them. I can go in and I can select their state from the drop-down box. In this case, I've selected Australia. I'm going to be presented with unique application requirements for this state. And it just so happens in this case that this state requires a fair bit more, so be it. But as the data fields are mapped, what you will see is that will not affect the way that the FOAT functions. If I proceed to the actual application, and I scroll down to the section where this state requires those same details, again you can see those core details are pre-populated for me on my behalf. I don't need to go about entering them yet again. Now, I've used very simple information fields here, like the company name, telephone number, email address, but I hope you can see that this extends to any of the common data fields. So we could be talking air operator certificate information or OBSPEC information that's used repeatedly on multiple applications. All of this can be pulled in and populated automatically when an operator starts a new application. Really saves on time and effort here. So just to finish the demonstration, as an operator I could return to my dashboard and you can see there the states that I've applied to already. One of them is completed and one of them is in progress. Right now our prototype enables an operator to download and print out the application form that is exactly in line with that state's requirements. So for now the prototype doesn't develop anything on the state's side. The state would receive a form in exactly the same manner that they currently do. But of course, as I mentioned, there's a lot of further development that we'd like to do there and solve some problems on the state's side as well. So that's the demo of the FOAT. If you would like to see that in more detail, like I said, please come in and see us afterwards or get in touch. So I'm going to do a quick refresh on the principles behind the DNA as a whole, as well as the FOAT specifically in ops. This is somewhat of a different direction for us in ops, at least different to writing standards and guidance material. We are really looking to see what we can develop in terms of these electronic services for the aviation community that will really bring some benefits. In doing so, we want to reduce that data management inefficiencies that we've identified when there are so many of these services coming to light now in an increasingly digital world. And then where we can, we're looking to standardize some of the processes a bit more over and above what might be in a guidance manual already. To do all of that, it's really important that we collaborate with other organizations on these objectives. It's really important that you get what you want. So please recognize that this is a work in progress. Everything that you've seen is not us saying this is how it's going to be. It's our proposal, it's how far we've got, and we really want to engage with the community to make sure we develop tools and services that are going to bring you benefits. So with that in mind, what next for the DNA FOAT and more? As I said, please work with us so you get what you want and you get what you need. It's not in anybody's interest if we spend time and effort developing tools that the community does not actually need. If you are a state and you're interested in the FOAT and how you might use it for receiving foreign operator applications, please get in touch. If you're an operator and you think the FOAT would be really valuable to you to save you going into multiple different locations, different CAA websites for these foreign operator applications, then also please get in touch. We'd love to engage with some beta testers for our platform. And then for the DNA as a whole, if you're any organization in the civil aviation community, please reach out with any ideas or suggestions, things you might have seen today or other ideas that you haven't seen that you think we could investigate, tools, services that we could develop, that we could offer through the DNA window. Please also reach out. We'd love to hear from you. There is an email at the bottom of the screen there, or you can, of course, come and speak to us after. Thank you very much for your time, and happy to take any questions.
If there are any questions, you can come up to the mic. Thank you, David Scorer.